The time is now 6 p.m. Our regular City Council meeting for August 11th, 2020 is now in session. First on the agenda is Councilmember Scagliola will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Please rise.
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing on those who gather in your name. And during these challenging times, we offer our heartfelt thanks and ask for your continued blessing upon those who protect and serve our community. Lord, as we conduct the business of the city, we ask for your guidance, so we remain mindful of our purpose and governance to promote the common good and address the needs of our community. Lord, grant us the clarity of mind, strength and conviction needed to build a stronger community and a brighter future, inspired by your holy word. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Dr. Scagliola. I have a special announcement. Council and guests, while seated, it is perfectly fine to remove your face mask or while speaking at the podium. But as you approach the dais or depart the chamber, we respectfully ask that you place your face mask back on. So we'll continue with, first is the Mayor Pro Temp Oath of Office. Our City Secretary, Brenda Dennis, will administer the oath of office to Councilmember Rosemary Scott. Ms. Dennis?
Okay. You will raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Rosemary Scott,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully
the
execute
duties of office of Mayor Pro Tem
the duties of office of Mayor Pro Tem
for the City of Schertz
for the City of Schertz
and will, to my best ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state.
of the United States and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Scott. And thank you, Councilmember Davis, for serving as our Mayor Pro Temp. We'll continue with city events and announcements. We have announcements of upcoming city events. Mr. James?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder for folks that the city will be holding its general election for the purpose of electing council members in place 3, 4, and 5 for 3-year terms. Candidate packet and qualification information can be found on our city website as well as in the city secretary's office, and that the last day to file is Monday, August 17th by 5 p.m. To be on that November 3rd ballot.
Thank you, Mr. James. Announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Dr. Brown.
Yes, sir. I have one tonight. John Nowak, would you come forward? So, I don't often present coins at City Council. The last couple meetings we have done so. But since John has done such a terrific job for us with our spam and street maintenance program, I thought it was appropriate that he be recognized tonight in front of everyone for his great work. We all know that John has done a terrific job coordinating all the projects that we have going on. We have a tremendous number of projects all being executed at the same time. That required a lot of effort on his part. And if you drive by these 100-degree afternoons, you'll often see John out there on the street himself supervising the project. So it's a great, he's done a great job. He also did a great job on our CIP plan, which is helping us plan for our growth moving forward. So John, for your great service, I want to give you a city manager coin. And I think you exemplify the values that are on there. Work as a team, do the best you can, do the right thing, and treat others the way you would like to be treated. You know, when I think of that, I think of John Nowak. So congratulations. Thank you very much. And John's wife is here, so you want her to come up and have a picture? Let me put my mask on. All right, you give a speech to us now.
I'm honored and humbled. Thank you.
John, on behalf of our residents, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, you have been pretty busy, especially these last couple of months, and we appreciate your hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm part of a team. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do have just one other announcement. Thursday, we have our public community budget meeting, and that'll be over in the Civic Center. What time is that? 6:30? 6:30 on Thursday. And we did not post for a quorum, so we won't be able to have the whole council in attendance.
All right.
Brenda can take care of that.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. So, council, that means first three that come in, get in. All right, announcements and recognitions by the mayor, I have none, so we'll move on. Next on the agenda is the hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the city council. Each person is limited to 3 minutes, and we ask before addressing the council, for the record, please state your name and address. We only have one person that signed up. Is that Cody Schmidt?
Good evening, Council. Cody Schmidt with W&S Storage. We just put in a brand new facility down on Green Valley Road, right where Green Valley Road and Eckhart meet. Our main concern is with the customers that we're having. We've been open for about a month, and the majority of them are raising the awareness of basically the safety issue of that road. I know a portion of it has new development in, and it's nice until a certain point where it turns pretty bad. It's posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour, and if you're doing that posted speed limit, you're being thrown about that road. We basically wanted to bring that to the attention of y'all and see if there was any development or time period that we were working on it. I know that the Master Thoroughfare Plan 2017 noted that there was going to be some extension and development in that area on those roads, but right now we don't see any, and we're just wondering if there was anything coming up, or at least bring it to y'all's attention and see if there's something that we can do to kind of help out and with the conditions of those roads.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Dennis, is there any hearing the residents submitted in writing? All right, thank you. We'll continue. We have two workshops. Workshop number one is workshop and discussion regarding the proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. Mr. Walters, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we'll be having our first budget workshop. I'm going to touch on the highlights of the budget, most of which we went over on Friday's retreat. So I'm going to move a little quickly, but if you have any questions or any comments or anything you've thought about since we met on Friday, please let me know. So I'll go over the highlights of 2021, the general fund summary, water and sewer summary, drainage summary, SEDC summary, and then the special revenue fund summary. So the highlights coming up for next year include the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, Unified Development Code update, some more CIP funding, some additional facility maintenance funding, the Class and Comp implementation and employment cost index, and funding of personnel recommended by the staffing study. So the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, this plan will propose to include the future land use, parks master plan, and any sub-elements. Also looking at the implications of the master thoroughfare plan, the water and sewer master plan, and there is a position proposed that would help administrate this review as well as maintain a long-term planning program. Under the CIP funding, I'm proposing allocating a one-time $500,000 additional funding for our CIP coming out of our reserves. Streets would get $200,000, parks and trails $150,000, drainage $100,000, and sidewalks $50,000. For the streets, we have about $210,000 recurring in the general fund. We have $320,000 we're taking out of the reserves for the current year, the $4 million. We may have some money left over from existing projects. We'll see how those come in when they finalize and see if they need more funding or if they come in under. And then we're adding the $200,000. So we have about a $700,000 probably plus coming up for next year. Those will go towards the PCI study, contribution to FM 3009-78 crossing study, Lindbergh upgrades from Main to Exchange, and then any of the other projects coming up will be listed when the amounts are finalized, when the current contracts are concluded. For the parks and trails, we have about $235,000 that we put in annually to upgrade parks and trails. We're going to have a one-time of $150,000. So with that money, we're looking at Thilmar Park additional parking, Ashley Park Pavilion, Playscape, and then Pickle Park improvements, as well as some trails along the north section, where currently we don't have a whole lot of trails. The drainage, we currently have about $83,000 of annual maintenance we put in. We're at another $100,000. So I have $183,000 available for projects. We're going to put that towards the Amazon channel upgrade. Design and construction is about $300,000, so we'll start on the design. Probably take the rest from drainage reserves to finish out the project. To the sidewalks, we have about $75,000 in the general fund. That's a reoccurring. We're going to add $50,000. And we'll spend that looking at Curtis Avenue and Arrow Avenue, kind of making a big interconnecting sidewalk system from Schertz Parkway to Main Street. On the facilities, we have $290,000 proposed in the budget. The base is $135,000. We're adding an additional $55,000. Some of the projects that will be accomplished with this next year: City Hall counter remodel, community center kitchen remodel, animal controls facilities, rear fence, restroom, library restroom upgrades, the fire station 1 sleeping area floor. We have preventative maintenance to AC units, and then we have some emergency maintenance types items. The AC breaks down and it costs $8,000 to $10,000 to fix, or it's a large unit on top of the YMCA and it's like $25,000 to fix. So those things can happen. We also mentioned the class and comp adjustments. So we've mentioned we're funding that implementation at 97% of the median over the next 5 years. We've already done one adjustment. The next adjustment isn't proposed to take into effect until October 1, 2021, so a year from now. It'll be in the following budget. The study also recommended we do employment cost index. This moves the entire pay scale up by a certain percentage. Proposing to do a 1% initial effective October 1, this coming October, and then Octobers after that do 0.25% the following 4 years, overall ending at a 2%, a maximum of 2% adjustment over the 5-year window. We also included a staffing study. Based on the study, we're proposing 4 new positions: the police captain, a school resource officer, emergency management coordinator, and a senior planner. So the general fund budget that we proposed is $37.2 million. It's an increase of $972,000, or 2.7% over the current year's adopted budget. This is not including the infrastructure funding, the one-time that we mentioned. The non-personnel budgets actually decreased 4.5% due to fewer capital purchases and lower tax abatement payments. And the personnel budget increases 6.9%, acting on that class and comp study, the merit, the insurance, anticipated insurance cost increase, the 1% ECI, and then adding the 4 positions, as we mentioned. So here's a history of our final adopted general fund budgets. Relatively stable trend up. When we look at it on a per capita basis, you'll notice that next year is estimated to be at the same level per capita as the current year. So our budget's growing with our population. For the sales tax, it's been bounces around quite a bit. This year we're looking about 14%. The year prior was negative 1.4. So we have a proposed budget at 5%. Under the permits, we saw a couple of great years of a lot of development, a lot of it with the schools, but we also had some commercial construction. We've seen that kind of level off. We're proposing relatively a stable, consistent permit revenue next year. Franchises, same thing. They were growing for a while. They seemed to about leveled off for a little bit, so we're proposing that same stable amount. Under the fees, we had pretty high fees back in 12 and 13. They started to decrease when we saw some citations started to drop off. But since then, we've kind of corrected for that, and we're holding fees at a relatively stable level. So that plan check, when we take out what's related to the building permits, you start seeing a little bit more of that decline based on municipal court fines, but now it's sort of leveled off. On the personnel, you see the personnel budget is one of the larger increases because that includes the merit program, the ECI, the class and comp adjustment, the 9 new positions. All that's contributing to a relatively high 6.9% increase. Under the operating, this is non-capital, non-personnel, proposing relatively flat. There's no real decrease. We expect next year to see a decrease here. We had the tax abatements fall off, but we had the master plan study sort of take up that additional capacity. It's a one-time study. Once that's done, I'm expect to see the operating budget decrease. Capital outlay, this is another reason we saw a decrease in the capital outlay this year. Current year was a little inflated. Not all of our purchases were made. There was a delay in getting some of the equipment. They just couldn't, we placed the order, they just couldn't get it to us fast enough. So some of these expenses actually rolled into the current fiscal year, which is causing the bump. But we have a nice replacement plan that should be relatively stable and consistent going forward. So the general fund proposed budget assumes 26% fund balance requirement. We'll try to get to that requirement over the next 5 years. Here's our 5-year forecast. Our current year, we expect to be at 33.9%. With our $4 million we're taking out of for capital projects, we have another $500,000 that we proposed this year. Overall, $678,000 reduction in the fund balance, but by 2025, we'll reach that 26%. We also do a long-term debt model, try to estimate and try to maintain a level debt rate. With that, next year, the INS rate is about 1651 is what's been calculated. We do have a planned issuance of $9.4 million. This is voter approved and council passed a resolution. So this 9.4 is for 1518, the city's contribution to TxDOT for the 1518 project. So moving into the all funds, we only talked about general fund as far as the actual dollars on Friday. So the all fund budget that we proposed and submitted is $89.4 million. General fund is the largest portion of that at 41%. Water and sewer is another large one at 28%. EMS at 11, INS at 8, and then the other green over here is the SEDC, which is about another 9%. What that looks like, if you look at all of the individual budgets, you'll see the overall budget expenditures. The net change overall throughout the city, we're proposing about $2 million decrease in our fund balance. Estimated ending fund balance between all of the funds is $61.3 million. In the water and sewer fund, the upcoming projects, we have the loop lines. Those are debt issuance. We're going to start on the construction and then of Ware Seguin and Lower Seguin, and then we'll have a design on Greytown and File. Corporate ground storage tank design should kick off. So once the elevated tower is done, we'll move on to the ground storage tank next to it. We also have the 1518 utility relocation design. So before TxDOT can start the 1518 and our $9.4 million contribution, we have to move our utilities out of the way. Aviation Heights water line replacements will kick off next year as well. We also have a Northcliffe Country Club Estates AC pipe design and bid proposed. Under the EMS fund, we're hiring a full-time instructor for EMT and other classes. So this is a full-time instructor. Normally we hire some of our staff or other staff on a contract basis. This is a full-time person. We're able to add a whole nother EMT class, which generates about $33,000 of revenue for them, as well as cut down on some of the contract labor costs. They're also adding 2 12-hour full-time paramedics and a 24-hour full-time paramedic. This will help reduce our overtime, and these will probably pay for themselves. That's just through overtime savings. Drainage channel maintenance. So in the drainage fund, big project next year they're going to start working on is the Amazon channel. Total project cost currently estimated about $300,000. Under economic development, approved incentives. So these are already incentives that have been approved by agreement. Estimated payout next year is about $3.1 million. And then EDC is also going to kick in about $4 million for the Tri-County Road. It'll be kicking off next year as well. All right. And that is my portion of the presentation involving the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Scott, well, Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
All righty. I would like to talk about the personnel, the budget for the increases in the personnel. I'm not referring to your slide because I'm referring to the backup that I received earlier. The title of the backup that was extremely detailed. I know you didn't have time to go over, however much, hundreds of pages or what have you. But I'm referring to this so that you can go back and see what page I'm referring to. The name of the document is the backup period PDF. That's the file. On page 12, I see another notable item for the FY 2019-20 budget is the implementation of the classification and compensation study's first-year recommendation. This study by a third party reviews market wages and makes recommendations for compensation adjustments for city staff. The first-year recommended adjustment was effective on July 4th, 2020. The study also recommended annual employee cost index, in parentheses ECI, adjustments. The budget includes $211,000 for a 1% ECI for all employees effective October 1st. Is that this year or next year?
That'll be October 1st, 2020. So this will be the budget we're
That's
working on.
what I understood, but when you were presenting right here, you said something about next year that would be in effect 2021. Was that another 1% or what?
Sorry, the class and comp recommendation had 2 pieces to it. One was actually salary adjustments. So that is moving departments or personnel classifications to different grades, so different pay bands. That is the first part and is probably the largest piece to the class and comp study. And the first part of that was done on July 1st. And that encompassed this year's adjustment, and because we had some savings, we also did the adjustment plan for October 1, which kind of did it all at once. So that adjustment is not going to be, not going to happen on October 1st. The next part of that, when we're moving all of our employees to different pay bands, will happen October 1, 2021.
Okay,
The
thanks for
ECI
clarifying that, but you are asking for $211,000 this October 1st, right?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of took issue with the comp and class study. Did I say that right? I'm a little dyslexic. I think fast. Sometimes things come out inverted. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. I kind of took issue with it because it's like you're paying a company to tell you that you might need raises or whatever. I totally support. I want to thank y'all for doing a fantastic job. I have no issue with having such awesome public servants. I want that on record. I think you're the best in, the 8 metro county, if not more. I personally wanted to support police, fire, and EMS, and that's not to take away from anybody else's job. We're all parts of the puzzle. I get that. I thought that it was, a lot of money. I thought whenever, I'm very sorry I missed the June 2nd meeting. I had something come up that I had planned. I was unable to attend. But I remember distinctly the following week asking, was this, God, I hope I'm not pulling it out of the air, like 1.4 or 1.8? How much was that? How much was the whole, everybody's raises and all of that?
It was at one.
A little over 1.2.
1.2 million, right?
Correct.
Okay, I think that's exceedingly generous. I think that the argument for employee retention kind of falls on its face in the light of the economy and everything that's going on. I don't want to come off as a hard person who doesn't love and appreciate you, but I'm just saying from a business sense, that does not make sense to me. Texas just made headlines for winning the Golden Horseshoe Award. This was an award named in the 1980s for a $640 toilet seat on military airplane. It's for excessive spending. Texas pays public employees $12 billion annually, with 78,000 making more than $100,000 per year. About 24% of those employees out-earn the state governor Abbott, whose salary was $153,000. Current estimates puts Texas government debt at almost $100 billion, or $12,000 per taxpayer. And so I want to go on record that I think that restraint might be called for till we get the, see what the lay of the land is going to be. I did pull up the comptroller's report, and I was rather pleasantly surprised to see sales taxes are doing well for Schertz in June and July, both last month and year to date, which is good news for us, but I don't think we're near over this yet. And also, I would like to see, I took issue with some of the methodology in the class and comp study, but, it's too short a meeting to go into all of that. But I was a little surprised at the $211,000 on there for this year, frankly.
Okay, Council, any other comments, questions? Councilmember Brown?
I'd like to thank the staff for the great job that they did in making such a good presentation for us on Friday. Made life a whole lot easier to understand the way that you put the presentation together. And I don't think we have any $600 toilet seats in our budget, nor do we have people that are making $150,000 a year. Our pay scale needs to be adjusted to be competitive for the local environment. Okay, and I think we're going to be very conservative about that. We're not giving anybody any of the raises that were at the top of the pay bands. All right, none of that's going to be happening. All right, they've chosen a very conservative yet progressive increase plan, and I want to again say thank you very much for doing that and putting it together in a way that even I could understand and get through it very easily. So again, I think we're going in the right direction.
Okay, Councilmember Hayward.
I concur with Councilmember Brown. I think we're going in the right direction, and we got to get people up to a certain percentile and be equitable in what we do and getting them at the salaries where we're going to be competing with other cities and getting these people. We can't keep lowballing them. I think it's time that we do the right thing.
Any other comments? Oh, Councilmember Dalla?
I'd just like to echo Mr. Brown's comments there that, yeah, I think we got a good budget here. Spent a lot of time reading this. It's quite eye-opening and very difficult to read. But I do have a couple of kind of technical questions. One of them being with the police budget on page 71 of the budget. It shows that they had this year budgeted $179,000 for overtime, projected to be at $255, and budgeting a little over $200 for next year. And given our first responders, are we doing the right thing and making sure we have budgeted enough so they can meet their overtime needs when they need it?
And thank you for looking at that. Currently, we have the savings in the regular line, which contributes to some of the overtime that's seen in the PD budget. So because of the vacancy rate, because they have open positions, their regular salary line is going to come in under budget and covers the overtime cost.
Okay.
Hopefully, if we had full staff, then we're able to mitigate that overtime a little bit better.
Okay. And then on page 24 of the budget, there's with the, I think it was the callers, hold on, let me pull it up here real quick. The municipal court. It shows there, we're talking about the positions, the administrator, senior deputy court clerk, and the deputy court clerk. And then there's an asterisk under there saying one unfunded. Can you kind of clarify what that is signifying, because there's no corresponding asterisks in there?
On the other one, that may have been a item left in, let me double check real quick, I can bring that up. That's probably left in as from last year before we'd have and we're trying to clean them up. We'd unfund positions. Basically, they'd be approved, but they wouldn't be dollars assigned to them in the budget. And previously that was thought to be a little bit easier to then hire mid-year if we needed to. Council wouldn't have to approve it, especially if it was under a certain dollar amount, then maybe the city manager could just then go back in and fund the position through his limited authority. Yes, that was lapped in from last year, and we'll remove that. We have 2 clerks, and they're fully funded. Before, we showed like 3 clerks and then 1 unfunded. But we have 1 court administrator, 1 senior deputy court clerk, and 2 deputy court clerks, and all of those are funded positions. So I'm going to remove that aspect.
Yeah, I read that like 3 times. I'm like, okay, what am I missing here? And then one other, if you want to go back up to page number 12. Let's see where we get up here. 13. We have, let's see here. It's on the top part of the page, the account for kickball leagues. We're showing that we have budgeted next year $2,600 for recommended budget, and I seem to recall at the last meeting that we discussed that we're discontinuing the kickball leagues.
It was the dodgeball leagues we're discontinuing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. My mistake. That's all I have.
Councilmember Scott?
Alrighty. I did not mean to suggest y'all are not doing a good job, and I certainly believe in being competitive. I do. The city of Laredo, I read their city manager's making $800,000. People are pretty ticked off. You know, we're not in that ballpark or that category. I do want to be fiscally conservative because taxpayers are paying for this, and one thing I don't want to be is real top-heavy. I'm not saying we are. I'm saying where I don't want to go is when you're top-heavy on management, or you're so fully staffed and loaded that when we build out, we have, you know, surplus and superfluous positions. So it was not in a slight to any of the city employees in any way, and I want y'all to understand that. You understand? Get it? Got me? Okay, number 2. I have 2 more questions. The $400,000 for comprehensive land use plan and unified development code update, is that a done deal? Are we still talking about it? We're going to fund it or come back to it? What do we decide on? That is an open question.
Proposed to be funded in the budget. So if you approve the budget, it will be funded.
But if we didn't use it all, we could,
Sure.
yeah.
If it came in under, then we would refund that back to the general fund.
To refund it?
We'll be wise in the bidding process.
I feel like you will. And then finally, I think I wrote the page down wrong because I can't find it right now, but PEG fund for the 2021 budget increased from $3,259 to $185.5, and I can't find it. I don't even know what that is. The PEG?
It's the Public Educational and Government Access Fund.
Okay.
It's basically the funding cities and other local governments receive for the public access channel. We use that for our master communication plan. We've kind of hit other projects that come along throughout the past couple of years, but that money is basically a project fund. So we'll save up money right now, and then we'll turn around and spend it. And we get you a copy of the master communication plan. The general thought is interconnectivity of all of our locations, with the ultimate goal of putting more of our content on the web streaming, or ultimately, if it grows enough and we have enough demand for it, creating a public access channel for the city of Schertz.
Okay, if it's like our public access channel?
Yeah, very own city of Schertz. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, because I was wondering, like, that's 57 times higher, but if it was just like sending out newsletters or something, I was like, yeah, okay. And then we could maybe have like the Miss Schertz, or we could have local talent be on it, and yet another platform for communication. Okay, I'm feeling it on that.
Put some webcams over at Crescent Bend Park, watch the birds from home. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. One more. I'm sorry, Mayor, can I ask one more?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, page 88. Environmental health went from $199,079 in 2017 to 18, and nothing since. What was that?
That was our code enforcement and sanitarian services. That budget got combined with the PD budget.
Okay.
So it just moved from one spot to another. So you'll find all the expenses moved over there.
Okay, sorry, I had one more.
And same with the animal services.
Got it. Page 234, parks, expenses. What are the professional services for parks? It went from $5,700 2 years ago to $10,000, and now at $25,000. What are those?
Design services.
Pardon?
So it tends to be design services. So for instance, one of the things I think we mentioned is we did a schematic master plan of Hilltop Park. So we hired a professional park designer to come in and do that design for us. So periodically, parks will need to bring somebody in for expertise. But we haven't used it a whole lot in the past. Typically, again, like I said, this past year, it's been that conceptual design to take out, to sell the neighborhoods and get input on the Hilltop Park master plan.
Might be a dumb question. I'll quit asking after. This is the last
sure.
one. Is this anything we could do in-house? Do we have the ability to do that with our engineers?
So where we can, we do that in-house. So we often will look to our in-house folks to help us out. So for example, with some of the work on the upcoming senior center parking lot, our engineering department helped us with that. John and Kathy back there helped us with that, and Cecilia. So where we can, we'll tap our in-house resources. So I will say this, not as a criticism, John and Kathy are very good about building things that don't fall apart and are functional. Aesthetics and the way a park lays out, not kind of their experience. And so that's kind of where we tap into those resources. It's much like we use Tony McFalls in GIS. We use him for a lot of different things because of his skill set, but sometimes we just need an outside expertise. But we try to be very selective about it because we, in part, feel like we know the community better. We hear what the citizens say. We hear what council and board and commission say. And so we feel like we've kind of got a little more insight than an outside consultant.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't remember that one off the top of my head, what that was specifically for, but I can get you an answer and respond via email or posted. Yeah.
Council, any other questions? I'd just like to add my comments. One thing you didn't mention, you guys did a great job with the budget, especially after I see the disabled vet exemptions. We have approximately $1 billion that's exempt. That is equates to $2.2 million that's not in our budget due to these military exemptions. And I just want to pass our appreciation, the work you've done, even though we have this big shortfall. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walters. We'll continue with our second workshop, discussion and updates regarding the COVID-19 virus and our current ordinance number 20H18, declaration of our local disaster. Chief Long, floor is yours.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll just go through and get a quick update on where we're currently at. We'll start out with some exciting news that we got this week, or Friday, for our library. They received a grant for almost $25,000 for equipment to create the virtual programming and in-demand ebooks. So we're excited to report that to you tonight. As we get on through the current numbers, we're starting to see a trend where things are starting to level out, but Guadalupe County has got 256 active cases right now. 1,775 have recovered. Still got 446 that are pending. Schertz just added a couple Friday, so 42 active, up from 36 or 38, 212 total. Bexar County starting to see some smaller number increases in Bexar County now, so it's getting into the 200 or 300 a day range instead of several hundred. Even looking at our 78154 zip code, it's been holding kind of steady in our Bexar County portion. Around 160 to 180 cases is kind of where it's been for the past few weeks. Comal County's got 445 active cases. It went up a little bit today that I updated on a slide. Dishes, Region 8 again, just they were at 17,000 last week, so just still staying kind of within that 1,000 increase for the whole region of Dishes 8. So those numbers are starting to stabilize a little bit. Here, just kind of showing you, trying to make the switch over to just showing some of the active cases. And so this is the old chart that we were looking at that had the total case numbers on it. So we've now changed that over to just showing the active case numbers. And so you can see, Guadalupe County and Comal County at the bottom there. And so when you put Houston and Dallas in there, it really spans that chart out. But just to kind of show you, on the next slide here, I just kind of break Guadalupe and Comal County out so that you can kind of see what those numbers are doing. So, it kind of shows there July 20th is when we kind of peaked and hung there for a couple of weeks, and now we've started a decline, and so hopefully we continue that trend. Comal County as well was going down, and then they had just a small spike in there, but that again is just calling out our kind of two counties, showing you kind of what's going on around us. Next, went back through a lot of the data and tried to show the fatality ratio for Guadalupe County. Again, with all of their reporting that's going on, it's kind of hard to pin all those days down, but taken right now, Dishes is showing that we've had 55 deaths in the county, and so that gives us at the end there 2.92% fatality ratio for Guadalupe County. The positivity rate, the state positivity rate as of last meeting was 13.5. You can see it's ticked up a little bit to 20.99%. The new positive cases, see, has went down a little bit. It was at 9,500 last meeting. It's went down to 6,900 now. And again, just went back and looked at all the county data, and so we ended up at 14.2% positivity rate in Guadalupe County. The state data on hospitalizations just kind of shows you it's continuing what we're seeing locally here. That trend has went down a little bit. It was 8,800 Now it's down to 7,400 for the state on hospitalizations of COVID patients. Again, just continuing to look at our main hospitals that are, are used for our citizens and in the area, Bexar County hospitals. We've continued to see a decline in those. So last meeting was 886, went down to 725 now. So the ICU patients, ventilator patients continue to see a little bit of a decrease each time, so that's good. Non-COVID hospitalizations, it's been around 2,700. Now it's at 3,100 now, so still that shows people are still going to the hospital and getting taken care of for those non-COVID related things at this point. That's an increase, so that may be due to the fact seeing the numbers go down a little bit. The state disaster declaration, so on August 8th, Governor Abbott extended the state disaster declaration for an additional 30 days. And that's the quick update I've got.
Okay, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, Chief, I was just wondering, when's the flu vaccine supposed to become available for the seasonal flu? Any idea?
That would be Jason's question. We'll check with EMS. They get that, and so I'll see if he's got any information on that yet. No date? Okay.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have cases of the flu sort of superimposed on COVID cases. It can be real hard to sort them out.
Absolutely. The state's already started the language of, starting early to push people to get those flu vaccines this year.
And we'll do the same in the city?
Huh?
We'll do the same in the city?
Yes.
All righty.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
That's all I have.
Council, any other questions? Councilmember Scott?
Yeah, thank you for doing such a good job. I really like the metrics that you added in there. Thank you for putting in the mortality. I think it's very significant that you also added the non-COVID hospitalizations. Boy, that's the first time I've seen that. And I'm just looking at articles or any research I can find. It's real refreshing to have that right there. There was one page, I didn't see the legend on it. I think it was page 4. I was kind of doing it from memory when you had all the counties up there. It was the one right before just Guadalupe and Comel. Okay, go back. Yeah, back one, the one before. Yeah, this one, I didn't see the legend on it. We're the green, right?
We're blue. The bottom blue there that you see, Comel County, is the green at the bottom there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Then Travis County is the orange. Bexar County is the blue, and then Dallas County is the gray.
Okay, good job. I love the metrics, and thank you for keeping us informed. It's very good news. This is helping my blood pressure, because today when I'm researching and I find positivity rate is up in Texas, and they don't lead by saying, well, hospitalizations are down, deaths are down, this is good news, but it's just, they're always like in your face, and it's hard to get perspective and just try to settle down and do our jobs. I'm a teacher, and the teachers are freaked out walking around, and it's like we need perspective, not panic, and that's what this addressed. And so even with the mortality rate, their survival rate being 97%, I look at that as something good and not, it's sad for anybody to die, but I think that's positive.
Right.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to do a sort of a course check and make sure that you all want this at every meeting. That's the way we want to continue.
Council, that's one item that I did promise you when we first started this, that it will be at every council meeting. If you'd like to continue to have them, or should we just cut back on them? Every other council?
I'm thinking every other.
Okay.
And I'm kind of thinking that we might want to keep it on the weekly, make it a short, condensed one, only because this is the only source for a lot of our people watching this recording.
So the consensus is...
It's the only source that gives it local perspective. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I'm fine with going,
Okay, so we'll just try to trim it down and provide the numbers so that residents can see exactly what's going on, where we're headed. We'll keep it condensed, and I think council will more or less, I mean, they have very few questions today, so I think they're well informed as to what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we'll move on to consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered self-explanatory, and information packets are provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Consent agenda item number 3, approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of August 4th, 2020. Item number 4, resolution number 20R89, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a contract with MNC Fonseca Construction Company Incorporated related to the construction of the FM 1103 TxDOT Utility Adjustments Phase 2 project and authorizing the budget expenditures for this project. Item number 5, resolution number 20R82, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a contract with San Antonio Construction Ltd. related to the Cherry Tree Drive rehabilitation project and authorizing the budget expenditures for the project. Item number 6, resolution number 20R88, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the city manager to enter into a service contract with Fort Sam Houston Independent School District for EMS services and other matters in connection therewith. Council, is there any of these items on consent that need to be removed for separate action? If not, is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 through 6?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Haywood, second by Councilmember Dalla. Council, any other comments or questions? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 7, discussion item. Resolution number 20R78, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an agreement with DAC Incorporated of New Braunfels, Texas, for the citywide access control systems upgrade project and other matters in connection therewith. Sir, floor is all yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good evening. Tonight we come before you with a resolution to allow the city to enter into a contract with a company called DAC out of New Braunfels. The goal here is to upgrade and replace our aging door lock system, the badges that we all use to get into the buildings. This system's been in place, it predates me, it's been more than 18 years apparently since we installed it. The challenge we have, of course, is because it is so old, the system's obsolete. We can't find parts anymore, and every time we do have a system failure, we got to go to the secondary market to replace it. That's not a good scenario for anything. So in trying to determine how we were going to upgrade and replace the existing system, we put together a team of stakeholders from the city, all department heads that were interested in it. We put together a lot of requirements that we thought were very important to provide both continuity with our existing badges and existing door locks, existing hardware, as well as a path to move forward so that we can go to a more sophisticated access control system. So the system that we decided upon was an upgrade to the aging system that the police department was using called Open Access, or Open Options rather. In talking to them, they referred us to several different contractors in the area who were qualified. DAC put in the best proposal and the most comprehensive proposal to provide the services to upgrade it. So the way the program will work, this first phase will replace basically the hardware and software on the back end. That's the controllers, the servers, the software, and all that stuff that has to be upgraded and replaced. And then we'll start tackling replacing any door lock hardware, that type of thing. And then after that, the next phase, we'll start adding new doors, locks, gates, whatever needs to be done. So saying that, we feel very confident that this is the best path for the city, and we'd ask for your approval.
Okay, thank you, Miles. Council, floor is open for discussion. No discussion, all right.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve item number 7.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Davis to approve resolution number 20R78, second by Councilmember Scagliola. Council, any other questions or comments? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll move on to item number 8, ordinance number 20H25. An ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending Chapter 34, Health, amending parts of the ordinance in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. This is also our first reading. Chief Bain, floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. All right, good evening. I want to come and follow up on this ordinance that we had previously discussed. And the thought behind it was to allow mobile food vendors to bypass the health and fire safety inspections if they currently possess a health and fire safety inspection from another Texas municipal or county health and fire safety inspection agency. Now, before we get into the permits, I did want to mention one thing that's not on the slides. In section 34-2, we are going to change some terminology and remove the Director of Development Services. So when we do the second reading, we'll have some changes there. Moving on, 34-3 in permits, those have all been moved to the fee schedule. We made some changes to the definitions that would help fit the changes to the ordinance. First one was defining mobile food permit registration, and the second is the mobile food vendor. Now, with the inspection of food and beverage establishments, what the city does currently is every 6 months, every restaurant, mobile vendor gets their biannual inspection. They pay for one inspection for the year, and we do a biannual follow-up, just spot inspections, just to make sure they're doing what they need to do, and if they have any questions, we help them through it. Accepting the permits from outside agencies, this exempts them from the biannual inspection because we're going to go off of their expiration dates, not on our registration date. Now, with that, there's an exemption. We also want to point out this does not prevent or prohibit our city health official from performing spot inspection or investigating complaints. So essentially, Rebecca Vera, our sanitarian, would still be out there doing spot inspections and investigating all complaints, regardless if they're a registered user or a inspected vendor. Now, the registrations, they will follow the expiration of whoever issued that permit. So if San Antonio issued a health and fire permit, whatever that expiration date is, that's when our registration would end.
So then they would have to come back and...
Right. Wherever they decided to get an inspection, they would have to come back and re-register. Okay, and this is the authority for those vendors to operate in the city without a health inspection from the city of Schertz if they possess a valid mobile food health permit from another Texas municipal or county health inspection agency. Now, with that, they must register with the city and pass a fire safety inspection conducted by Schertz Fire if one has not been completed by another Texas municipal or county fire inspection agency. Now, if they did have both inspections, both health and fire, they come in, register, and the registration fee would be waived. Questions?
All right, thank you, Chief Bain. Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, you did good work on this, Chief. I do appreciate it. See, we're doing away with the fire code inspection per se if it's already been done in another city and found compliant. The thing is, if they come here, they still need to have a fire code inspection if it's not done where they got their original license. One of the things that concerns me is our code enforcement has the right and the authority to go to these different vendors and do a spot inspection at any time.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure that our code enforcement officers are trained to the extent that they can clearly identify fire code violations.
It's our health inspector that will lead those health inspections, and she works very closely with our fire marshal on these inspections. They work as a team when we have a new vendor come in and we perform the inspections. So I have great faith in her ability, not only on the health side, but if she recognizes a fire safety issue where she could contact our fire marshal.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, thank you for your work on this. I think it's a very good step in the right direction. It kind of protects the concerns in terms of registration and inspections, but still gives some flexibility and opportunity that didn't exist before. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Davis.
I agree with Councilman Larson. It's a step in the right direction. Now, my only concern is how do we get the word out to the mobile vendors? And at the end of the day, how do we even enforce this? Today I was scrolling through social media and I saw yet another food truck pop up on the feed saying that Schertz, Cibolo, we're going to be on FM 78 right down next to Calhoun's tomorrow, I think this weekend. And then I thought, well, I haven't heard of this one before, so I looked up the list of people that we have permits in the city of Schertz, and they're not on it. So, again, it's all good, but what's the point if Joe on the street's just driving into Schertz and setting up camp and nobody's aware of it, nobody's doing nothing about it? I mean,
we've had quite a few like that, and when we've been made aware of them or see them, our health inspector will contact them. And so far, we've had 100% compliance from everybody that's come to town. They either had permits from elsewhere or had no permit at all. Either way, they fell into compliance very quickly, and we were very cooperative. So it hasn't been an issue to this point, as long as, if somebody sees something, they tell us, and we can address it.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a mobile food truck or if it's a shed in the backyard or a roof or whatever. Just people do stuff without getting their permits all the time, and if it comes up, it becomes an issue, and if not, then, they get a free pass, I guess.
This can kind of relate it to speeding,
Exactly, yeah. We can't control our borders exclusively, and, that's just what it is. It's just a fact of life.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 20H25.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance number 20H25 by Councilmember Larson, second by Councilmember Hayward. Council, any other comments, questions? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 9, resolution number 20R84. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing a preliminary maximum tax rate for the fiscal year 2020, 2021, and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Walters, the floor is yours.
All right. Bring it back up. Start where we left off. The proposed tax rate next year, the 2019 taxable value for the fiscal year we're in currently is $3.75 billion. Those same properties are worth $3.78 billion, and then the city add $128 million to the tax rolls for a total taxable value of $3.9 billion. We also have some new, we take that information and calculate a couple of tax rates prescribed by the state. One is the no new revenue tax rate. This will give the city the same amount of revenues on property that was in the previous year's tax roll. We have a voter approval rate, so council can adopt a rate above this if they choose, but it will trigger an automatic election. So this would be a vote on the upcoming election ballot if we wanted to go higher than this rate. I'll also show you the current rate and the proposed maximum. So the no new revenue rate is 50.79. The voter approval is 52.47. The current rate is 51.46, and the proposed maximum is 51.46, and the staff has balanced the budget to that 51.46. One penny is equal to $390,000 of revenue, or $24.45 annual on the average home. As far as the breakdown between the M&O, which is our operations day-to-day, and the INS, which goes to pay the city debt, there's not a lot of change. Overall, staying very consistent. 51.46 is the same. So at 50.49, the no new revenue tax rate, the average tax bill from the current year to next year would go up $1,200 to $1,241. This is based on the average home value. So this includes all new development, which are high-value homes, which is pulling up that average. So the average tax bill that would go out is $41 higher. At the current rate of 51.46, the average bill goes up to $58, or a $17 annual increase on the average home. If we went up to the voter approval rate, 52.47, the average tax bill would go up $82, or a $41 increase on the average home. Historically, we've been through a couple different tax rates. We've been very consistent the past few years, and this will be the third year in a row we're proposing a 51.46 tax rate. That's what I have. Staff is proposing. Council set the preliminary maximum at 51.46. This is the highest rate council could adopt going forward without rescheduling public hearings and posting the notice. But you could go lower if you so choose.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Dollar?
Just one question, because all your slides there are showing the impact on the homeowner. We've talked for several years that we get more than 50% of our tax revenue from commercial. Do you know what that split is offhand?
I do not, but I can get that to you, and when we bring it back, I can post it or shoot it to you in an email, or to council in an email.
That would be interesting to see if we're continuing that we get more than half our taxes from the commercial businesses.
I can tell you that we are still go over that 50% mark. It won't change a whole lot in one given year without a lot of other commercial development. So I'll go back and see what that is and how much has changed from last year.
Thank you.
I can tell you that it hasn't gone down.
Council, any other questions? Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Thank you. I thought it was really, we're so blessed to live in Schertz where the home values are still rising so that we can still balance the budget, music to my ears, and not raise the citizens' tax rate, which is just, it's wonderful. But y'all really, I thought y'all worked hard to make this happen because it didn't happen by accident. And so I was pleased with that.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Scagliola.
Thank you. Yeah, just wondering, what's our projected surplus for this year, based on the budget last year actuals?
So the year we're in right now, we're currently projected to reduce our fund balance by $4.1 million.
No, the question is, how much of a surplus between what we expected to take in? I don't consider taxes revenue, but how much we will take in as revenue versus how much, or what's the number for expenditures, the differential there, because that money goes into our fund balance.
So for the 2020 tax year or the 2021?
For this current year.
For the 2020, if it remove the $4 million for the capital projects, we're planning to reduce the fund balance by $146,000.
Once again, how much money extra is going into the fund balance this year than we anticipated?
Zero.
Zero.
Or, sorry, than anticipated. Okay, I apologize. About 500,000.
About 500,000.
Yes, sir.
Which is at least $1.50. Yeah, pretty close.
Awesome.
Yeah, here's the problem I have with the budget process. 2 years ago, the decision was made to raise the taxes to address some current specific needs. Okay, that was done. Mayor Carpenter at the time says, hey, you know what? This is kind of like an emergency strategy. We need to address these specific needs. But we're going to do what we can, absolutely do what we can, to drive down the budget in the next few years. Well, unfortunately, those needs haven't gone away. And this isn't your fault, by the way. I know you're just, yeah, you probably feel like you're the one with the target on you. It's not on you. You do an exceptional job of making sure the rows and the columns add up. That's your job, and you do it exceptionally well. This goes above your level. It seems that the strategy hasn't changed much. You see, last year, the mantra was, hey, let's stay the course. Oh, And then this year, it seems to be business as usual. Apparently, those special interests and special projects and special needs haven't gone away. And that's a concern to me. Because here we told the residents that we would do what we can to bring down the tax rate in the next couple of years. And that hasn't done it. Okay, I'm not going to gripe about it a whole lot. There's a couple of tiny fixes that we could look at. One of them is instead of using a percentage for the fixed cost index, to use a fixed rate. Figure out what the average pay is and calculate a fixed rate increase for the cost index based on that. The other thing is there's some people who like the merit pay program. Okay, especially the people who are getting the merit pay, love the merit pay program. Not everyone's getting the merit pay program. I have some issues with merit pay, I'll say for another day. The thing is, let's put a fixed amount on the merit pay also. Restructure the program. Restructure the guidelines so that it treats merit as a yearly, hey, thanks for a job well done. Here's your reward for a job well done, versus treating it as a grade increase. So it would apply for that year and that year only. And that would fix one of the big problems I think we have in this city with our pay scale, the pay compression, and in some cases the pay inversion. I'd also like to see a little bit more emphasis put on developing a pay structure that takes care of those two issues, the pay compression. And, you know, if we have more money available in the budget because we've saved money elsewhere, how about if we apply it to actually accelerate our comp study that we did? Instead of phasing it out over 5 years, maybe get it accomplished in 3. I don't know. I'm also curious about the health care costs. Were they up or down this year, projected?
They were down originally. We've had some high claims recently. We're projecting a 5% increase. Historical average has been anywhere from 0 or 3% up to 15 and 8%. The long-term forecast, we use sort of the average of 10. For next year only, we have a 5% estimated increase.
5%.
We have those in a couple of weeks, by the end of August, I believe, and if there's any adjustment needs to be made by in the budget at that time, we'll bring forward that to council.
Yeah, it's interesting that whenever there is a overestimation, it rarely goes back to the residents or into, well, it goes into the general fund, basically. You want to save $400,000, I suggest the comprehensive land use plan be put on the back burner, at least for a little while. $400,000, 1 cent worth, seems a little bit excessive to me. Understand we don't know what the thing will cost. However, it's a high projection. I suggest we wait and figure out what it might cost after we do a real comprehensive study of the previous ones and see how many of those things, how many of the actions recommended have been implemented and what still needs to be implemented. $400,000, like I said, 1 cent. That's all I have, Mayor.
Council, any other comments? No comments. Councilmember Brown?
It just real quickly on the comprehensive land use plan. Again, that is a roadmap that we use for our commercial expansion. And again, commercial is over 50% of our tax basis. I think that more than pays for itself in just a matter of time. By having a smart and easy to, when I say easy to understand, a plan that corporations can use when they come in here and they look at Schertz and they go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm not going to have a residential community next to my commercial entity, and I'm going to have a road structure that seems to make sense to me, things along that line. I'm not going to have drainage issues, that I'm going to have to pay millions of dollars to mitigate. So things like that need to be identified and put on a plan, and that's more than what we can do internally. Don't get me wrong, as Mr. James said, we kind of know our city better than anybody else, and we can help guide that process, but we still need people to come in and provide the framework for that at a different level of insight. So I'm all for keeping up with the comprehensive land use studies, because they're what allows us to bring in Amazons, to bring in Cisco's, to bring in other large companies that bring us a lot of income.
Councilmember Davis.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. It's not often I agree with both Councilman Scagliola and Councilman Brown, but this ought to be interesting. I agree with Councilman Brown. The comp plan, we've been talking about that in so many different areas where it's come up as a sticking point. I think it's got to get done. But on the same token, 2 years ago, we raised our tax rate to get after things that weren't getting done. And Council 2 years ago, last year, and this year is still adamant about we need to get to a point of not kicking the can down the road and fixing things when we need to fix them, and not saying we'll take care of it later. So I guess my question comes down to, historically, as I understand it, we tend to be very conservative on our projected revenues. So I want to make sure I'm clear about this. In the 18-19 fiscal year, where we raised the tax rate, were our revenues higher than what we anticipated in the budget?
In some areas, they were. In others,
I'm not, just generally.
I have to go back and check. I believe they were a percentage point higher than what we originally budgeted.
And then the same for what we're in now, 1920. We had a projected revenue stream based on 5146, and are our revenues higher than what we anticipated in our 1920 budget based on 5146?
That I can answer a little clearer.
The reason why I'm asking that is if 2 years ago when we raised the tax rate to 5146 and we anticipated bringing in X and we brought in X plus 1, and then this year, or last year, this current fiscal year, 1920, if we were at 5146 and we brought in more than what we anticipated on the revenues, all during that time, those 2 years, we were able to put extra money towards parks, extra money towards streets, and extra money towards drainage. Then I guess my argument is, are we being a bit too conservative on our revenue projections? And if that's the case, should we start throttling back on the tax rate? And maybe, I'm not convinced that maybe, especially with the current health crisis going on, that it would be a great idea to go back and cut off the 150 and go down that far. But maybe it's an argument to say let's go from 5146 to 5100 if the past 2 years we've in fact funded the programs that we've been kicking down the road and have still brought in extra money.
The current year, we're projecting to be $100,000 under our revenue projections.
This year, we anticipate not making what we wanted to make.
That's correct.
Okay. Good enough. I'm okay.
Okay, Councilmember Dalla.
I agree with all of y'all. Yeah, I mean, I was sitting out in the cheap seats there when we did the tax increase a couple years ago, and you know, like you mentioned, it was to address deferred maintenance in a lot of areas. You know, the number I remember from back then is about $850,000 in parks. I think we're about halfway there. You know, we haven't got it caught up yet. We're still catching up on streets. Yeah, I think we have a little ways to go to get to a point where we can really have a serious discussion about lowering the tax rate. But yes, I agree with what Mayor Carpenter said at the time, is that, yeah, we certainly need to start putting that in our long-term horizon and thinking about how we are going to reduce the tax rate.
Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Councilman Scagliola didn't say don't do it. He said defer it and put it off and wait, you know, to have a little extra cushion. It can be kind of overwhelming when you're looking at multi-million-dollar budgets and everybody needs something and things must get done. We need water, roads, safety, fire stations, etc. And Schertz is growing so aggressively. The government model, I've not been a government employee till I was a teacher, but I worked in teacher, well, I take it back, I was in teacher corps as a very young woman. Government model is spend it or lose it. And so whatever you have coming in, if you don't spend it, then the government says, oh, you didn't really need it. So they start cutting it. So you're incentivized to spend all the money that you can instead of being frugal and saving and et cetera. It can be a little overwhelming. I just wanted to, I don't really have an end to this thread, except I'm for deferring it and waiting and seeing. It doesn't have to be done, I don't believe, this year. Kind of let the dust settle and see where we are. But of course, with the extra money coming in, I was telling, I think his name's John, the engineer, is it John? Earlier, I've lived here 22 years and I've never seen so much bustle and hustle and the roads getting fixed and things getting done and the parks are looking fantastic. That's a wonderful place to be. But we don't want to spend ourselves to where we're just, you know, trying to be like Stone Oak and then we have no money left over. So it's a fine line. We have to be good stewards of our taxpayers' money and make sure it's a desirable community, but not be wasteful or frugal, which I'm not suggesting we are, but, you know, I kind of agree with maybe waiting on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Hayward.
As we keep growing, I don't think we have time to defer it. I mean, the comprehensive study keeps coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up for everything that we do. And if we don't know where things are going to go, and companies are coming in looking, we got to be able to tell them where they're going to be. And so I concur with Councilmember Brown that we need to get it done. We've already budgeted for it. Let's get it done so then it's done and we have something to look forward to when people are coming in. Hey, here's what we have. And we can guide them in what Schertz is looking for because they don't know what Schertz is and how Schertz is a backward Z and all of those things, but we can get them there to get us what we need as we're growing because according to Guadalupe County, when they did that growing study, in 20 years we're going to be a complete build out, and if we don't start now, we're going to be lost and we'll be running to try to get it done and things will be popping up before we know it. Yeah. And I'm all for keeping the tax rate the way it is.
Councilmember Dalla.
Yeah, just one final comment I thought of. Is that one of the other discussion points when we had that tax rate increase was to offset what we're losing in our budget from the disabled veterans exemptions. You know, as the mayor mentioned, we've got over $430 million worth of property that we're not getting tax revenue on, and we're getting a percentage of that back from the state. And certainly that's somewhere that if we can get some help from the state to fill that hole back in, it makes this discussion a whole lot easier. And certainly from my part, when the time comes and the legislature does go back in session, I'm more than willing to drive up to Austin and testify in front of a subcommittee and ask the state to relook at this and figure out a way to lessen the impact that is so disproportionate on us and a few other cities around the state, and not impacting other cities nearly at the level that it is us.
Councilmember Larson?
Yeah, I guess it's my last budget round, so let's have some fun. I mean, I think last year it was just me and Scagliola that fought against the tax increase. I've always been against tax increases, mainly because I could probably list off about 15 programs that I think are frivolous wastes of money. But what I've found being on council is that every program is a critical program to somebody, right? And so one of the things that I'll give credit to Mayor Carpenter in the many heated discussions I had with him behind the scenes, is he always talked about council coming to the center of the table. And it took me 4 years to get there. Maybe I need to leave so that I can get away from it again, so I can get back to my radical ways. But the reality is this is probably the closest thing to center of the table. Do I think we need Wendy Swan Pool? No. Do I think we need senior center lunches? No. Do I think we need Schertz magazine? Absolutely not. Can I keep going? Absolutely. But the reality is there's an entire community of people who think with a pretty wide variety of thoughts of which one of those is most important, which one of those is absolutely non-negotiable. I can probably get somebody to agree with me that Wendy Swan Pool is a frivolous waste of money, but then they'll tell me I'm the worst person ever for wanting to cut senior lunches. And I can probably find somebody else who thinks the free senior lunches, half of them going out to Cibolo, is insane. But to close the Wendy Swan Pool would just be a travesty of mankind. And, you know, that's the role of government, right, is a $400,000 comprehensive land use plan a good use of money? Well, compared to what? Is it worth 3 years of operating Wendy Swan Pool? Absolutely. Is it? You know, I guess that's the give and take of this role. And so when I look overall, I can nitpick our budget to death, and I have in the past. But when I look at kind of the body that's sitting here and the recommendations that we get from staff and the citizen surveys and balance what I hear when I hear from residents within the community, and then I look at our budget, I think that it's a pretty good representation of the wide span of people that we seek to serve. And I think that's why we're so consistent in getting high marks from our community, especially when compared to what other communities get in terms of how our city operates. I think the staff does a great job of balancing those needs and understanding that every dollar we spend is a dollar that we're taking from our residents' own budgets. And that means a lot. And when we look at a situation like where we are now, where the rest of we are lucky to be in Texas, we're lucky to be in South Texas, we're lucky to be in Schertz, and so in many ways we're insulated from some of the economic calamity that many other places within our own country are facing, but we're not exempt from that happening here. And so how do you balance moving forward and making sure that in 20 or 30 years we're still the kind of community we want to leave our children, which is both a safe community, a healthy community, and an affordable community. I said both and listed 3 things there, but you know, that's how government counts, I guess. And I think we do a pretty good job with that overall. I think there are some challenges with the way, and we talked about this at the budget retreat, I personally think there's some challenges with the way we've relied on bonding, challenges that we don't see because we're a growing community and we're growing rapidly, and it kind of glosses over the way that we've borrowed money for routine maintenance. But I think we talked as a council and as a staff, and it looks like there's plans to move forward in that direction. I mean, I would imagine that what we raise taxes is not too far off from what we spend on interest payments for things that probably shouldn't have borrowed money from in the first place, but you can't, there's no time machine. All there is improving what we do going forward. So is it a perfect budget? No. Do I wish we could lower the tax rate? Absolutely. I voted against the increase. I thought there was other ways to do it. But when I look at the cross-section of our community and what I've heard from residents, what I've heard from staff, what I've heard from the other people that I respect, all of you who sit on the dais and your feedback, I think it's a great center of the table budget that keeps us in a healthy position going forward. So, thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Scott.
Thanks. When I was on EDC, I'm not convinced that the big people that came in, the big companies that came in, like Amazon and Cisco and Caterpillar and GE, came because of our comprehensive land use study. They have their own research. We're in Texas. Texas is on fire. In the last 10 years, Guadalupe, San Antonio MSA is bare in every county touching it. We were the fastest growing county substantially. The biggest, and we have a work pool that's close to Bexar County. There's so much going for us just geographically, and I have to echo what Councilman Larson just said, how blessed we are to be here. And so the growth, it's going to continue unabated. And I just want to make, I just second what everybody's saying. That's all I got. I don't think that it's a do or die, and businesses are not going to quit coming here because we don't have that right now. I'm not suggesting not doing it. I'm just suggesting being frugal, balancing the budget, being responsible, and moving forward.
Thank you. Well, there were several great comments that were made by all the council members. You know, back on 2019, we didn't expect the exemption, military exemption, disabled military exemption. We lost $1.1 million in tax revenue. Last year it was 1.5. This year it's 1.8. 1.8 is equivalent to 4 cents. You know, it does require some adjustments on our budget. Economic development, this virus just about put everything on the standstill for companies. They're hesitating to see what they're going to do, what's the next option. There's so many things that are occurring for us to maintain a tax rate at the same level. Like Councilmember Larson said, I also wanted to see it go down, but you know, it's hard right now at this point with everything that's going on. We have new development that's coming in, that's trying to come in. Hopefully, the comprehensive land use study will stimulate some commercial interest over in southern Schertz, and by the end of the year, I think this whole virus situation has stabilized where we can see more economic development come in. On that note, any other?
Mayor?
Yes.
So, you know, we can certainly show you what a reduced tax rate looks like. And we can always put an option together that shows that. And we didn't do that this year, and maybe we should have. But moving forward, we can certainly show you, you know, what that looks like and what you would need to do in terms of how aggressive you want to be on estimating revenues and expenses, and, you know, what the cost in terms of our programming would be.
Well, that would be excellent to have. Right now, we can set the maximum tax rate. It could always come down. It can't go up.
That's correct.
So that is something that we have some time to work on. If not, then that would be our challenge for next year. Let's see what we can do. Like Councilmember Larson said, even if it's just a quarter of a penny, we're making some improvement. We're trying to work on the tax rate. That would show some hope. It might take 20 years to get under 10 cents, but it's a goal that we should have. Okay. Any other comments? No other comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution number 20R84 setting a preliminary maximum tax rate for the fiscal year 2021 to 2020 to 2021 at a rate of 0.5146?
Mayor, isn't there a specific language that has to be read into the record for that?
Not for the preliminary tax rate.
Okay.
So
moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Hayward to set the preliminary tax rate at 0.5146, the same as it is at this current year, and schedule public hearings. Okay. No other questions? No other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 We have 6 ayes, 1 objection. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to, just to make it clear, again, that's the maximum tax rate. It can't go up any higher than this. It can't go down. All right. All right, item number 10, ordinance number 20T27. An ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an adjustment to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing an effective date. Mr. Walters, floor is yours.
All right. Mayor and Council, this ordinance has two parts to it. One is the insurance payment that we received for our ladder truck. It was quite large, so it's not something we normally cover with contingencies. When an unexpected payment comes in, we usually bring it before council and get authorization to utilize those funds. We're going to split those funds into two pieces. One is going to go to outfit the new ladder truck, as well as cover the cost of the trade-in value that was supposed to happen, as well as some of the equipment is going to go over to that truck as well, and now we have to repurchase that. The other half of that is going into the fire department budget to outfit the new blocker truck that we got from Converse, as well as fix the old parade engine. So that'll finally be up and running and operational with these insurance funds. The other request is to hire the emergency management coordinator early. It was a requested position in the budget. Currently, it can be covered from the CARES Act funding, so it would not come out of any current program. Get us started on the hiring process, and we at least have him funded through the CARES up through December 31st. After that, the budget is proposed to cover the cost of it through normal operating means of property taxes, unless we find some other funding source if CARES Act is continued. At that time, if that is the case and other funding sources come available, we come back to council with a recommendation for those other funds. But tonight, we're just allocating the insurance money that we received from the ladder truck, as well as authorizing a position to be hired early.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walters. Before I open the floor, I just want to pass along our gratitude to the City of Converse for providing the new blocker truck. Appreciate it. It is necessary for the safety of our staff. And again, thanks to the City of Converse for that blocker. All right, Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Davis.
What was the total loss or recovery to the city for that truck? We got $165K?
Yes, sir.
From the insurance?
Yes. The trade-in value was like $70,000. That's what they were going to offer us. So we made out with an extra $90,000.
What was the value of that truck originally?
About $1.2 million.
Just one question. How long was it in service?
20?
20 years.
20 years, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? So it was towards the end of its lifespan. From what I understand, that's why the trade-in value was 70, and we got, what, 100 and, what was it?
160.
160.
Some of that does include replacement equipment that was also destroyed, so not all of it, but.
I mean, we had already contracted to buy the new ladder truck, so it'll be arriving soon.
So it was not a total loss.
It was going out of service anyway.
Are we going to continue using the blocker truck instead of a new fire engine for?
Yes, it was purchased for $3,000.
There we go.
As long as it runs.
Right, as long as it gets out there and protects the people out there. Mayor, I make a motion we approve ordinance 20T27.
I'll second that.
Yeah, hold on, Matt. Who was it that seconded?
Second.
Okay. You have a second by Councilmember Scalia. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, the floor is yours.
I was just going to say, this almost seems like two different subjects to me. I don't know why it's in one ordinance, because one is about the truck and then the other is about a staff member.
Generally, we bring budget adjustments in a package deal, so we're not taking separate action. So it's one action to adjust the budget. There are just multiple pieces to it.
I know, I'm not objecting to it whatsoever. I'm just saying it seems illogical to me. Of all the things I've seen, it doesn't go together. So that's all I wanted to say, Mayor.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Scagliola to approve ordinance number 20T27. No other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. All right, thank you. Roll call confirmation. Our City Secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide roll call information for consent agenda items 3 through 6 and discussion items numbers 7 through 10. Ms. Dennis?
Yes, Mayor. Consent agenda items 3 through 6. The motion was made by Councilmember Hayward, seconded by Councilmember Dalla. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 7, resolution number 20R78. A motion was made by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 8, ordinance number 20H25 on first reading. A motion was made by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 9, resolution number 20R84, setting the preliminary tax rate at .5146 and scheduling public hearings. A motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Hayward, and Brown voted yes. Councilmember Scagliola voted no. Motion passed. Item number 10, ordinance number 20T27 on first reading. Motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Scott, Councilmembers Davis, Larson, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. Okay, we'll move on to requests and announcements. City Manager Dr. Brown, any further announcements? Okay. Council, is there any updates or information packages you requested from staff? Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Scott?
Yes, I'd love to see a state of Schertz parks with walking trails and bike lane. I don't know if bike lanes goes in there or not, but with the walking trails at some point to see a presentation where we are with our parks.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Is there any possible items you'd like to place on future agenda items? No? Okay. Announcements by council members or events attended. Mayor Pro Tem Scott?
Yes, I really enjoyed the budget workshop last Friday. It was really good. It was very almost daunting to wrap your head around all of the departments and all of the resources that the city has. I was very happy that we are moving toward reducing debt over time being emphasized because that's hard to do when you're growing and you have many metaphorical mouths to feed. But I was extremely, I thought it was really good, very enlightening, and I felt real good about the progress that we're making as a city.
Okay. Councilmember Davis?
Nothing, sir.
Councilmember Larson? Councilmember Dalla?
Same as Mayor Pro Tem Scott there. Attended the workshop last week. First one is very eye-opening and informative. I appreciate the efforts of staff to answer all my questions. And then on Saturday, we normally had our Toy Story 4 movies in the park scheduled. That was canceled, of course, because of COVID, but Parks and Rec decided to do a little craft giveaway and encourage people to watch the movie at home. And I stopped by and helped Mary out with that for a little while, and it was great to see some of the kids showing up and getting really excited about having these little things to do. So they're doing it again this weekend at Wendy Swan Park.
Okay. Councilmember Scagliola?
Thought the budget retreat went over very well. Thank you so much to our staff and also our city secretary for helping set it all up.
Councilmember Hayward?
Yes. I went to the Commissioner's Court today. It was great to be there. They actually really praised Jason Mabet for working with them with getting the contract for EMS and how that worked out. They couldn't say enough about it, and they appreciated Schertz with working with them, and so they approved that interlocal agreement. And then I saw where for voting for our residents, with the LBL location, instead of just being in the front with the voting machines, they're also going to use the former section in the back and put machines back there. So there'll be 2 locations based on COVID. So they were doing an excellent job with that. And as far as the budget, I appreciate what our staff does and how they explain the budget. I would not want to do the county budget. That one was kind of a bit much with all the different departments that they do. And then the other thing I attended was the Guadalupe County Community Coalition meeting, and it's an organization that tries to educate and help with young folks misusing drugs. And so it was a good, informative meeting. The other thing that they're looking for is people that might want to volunteer to help the organization go forward, whether you have some kind of experience or you just want to be part of the organization. They are doing Zoom meetings because right now GVC won't let them in the building. And so they're on Zoom at 3 to 3:30. If anyone is interested, you go to the Facebook page, Guadalupe County Community Coalition. There's a contact there, or email me and I'll get you in touch with them because I am a member. And the other thing that she reminded me of was this is coming up on a year anniversary. It started September 1st. I remember when Councilmember Davis and I attended the first meeting, their inaugural meeting here at the library. And she followed me around at the National Night Out and talked to different residents in the community. And we're trying to go forward with getting that out because they have the grant to be in Guadalupe County. And so just trying to work with them and get more people to volunteer with them to help them out to get the word out and educate. Thank you. That is all.
Okay, Councilmember Brown.
Nothing else.
Okay. I just want to add my appreciation to our staff for the budget retreat. Thank you. Very informative. Okay, the time is now 7:47. We stand adjourned.